So super duper quick, I wanted to make a video on how your consciousness affects water. And so the human body is made up of 50 to 65% water, an adult, and then an infant, I think it's like 75 to 78. I don't know who comes up with these numbers, but it just kind of gives you an idea of how much water we are comprised of. And I don't know if you've heard of this before. It was an experiment done by somebody, I think he was a scientist named Masaru Emoto. And what he did was something called the water experiment. And he basically, I mean, you should look it up, you should Google it, you should research it yourself. And off the top of my head, I don't know how accurate my information is, but that's the thing. Like, you have to consider the source of information, right? To like really gauge its accuracy. Um, and everybody has their own perception, their own perspective, their own point of view, their own truth, and none of it is right or wrong, but it's just fragments of truth. But I feel like the more you experience life, the more fragments you acquire, and then you can put it all together and integrate it and become more holistic, right? Anyhow, going back to Masaru Emoto, he was a Japanese scientist, I believe. He did a water experiment. So what he did was he pulled water from the same source, and he basically put one portion of water in one room, the other portion of water in another room from the same water source. And in one room, he I guess he exposed it to like negatively charged things. Like, like they would tell the water, like, you're horrible, you're ugly, you're bad. And then in the other room, they would, like, send positively charged things to it, whether it be thoughts or emotions or affirmations. And after a certain number, certain period of time, he basically, what is the word? He put it under a microscope to kind of examine it, and the positively charged water had like really beautiful snowflake shapes and fractals, and the negatively charged water looked really, really bad, like cancerous, like it had some type of I don't know, disease, stagnant water that's just been sitting. So because we are made up of water, like 50 to 65% of water, I think it's really important to pay attention to what you expose yourself to externally and internally. So externally, I mean like the company you keep, the music you listen to, the information you consume, like through books, even your internal dialogue, like, internal dialogue, like what you're telling yourself consciously or unconsciously, because a lot of stuff is locked in your subconscious, right? So it's really important to be mindful and aware and to kind of like be able to access your subconscious and bring these festering thoughts to the surface so that you can investigate and, apply or release as necessary. And I think, and this is just off the top of my head, it's just my personal opinion. And I don't have any facts to back it up, but I just kind of feel like, in today's society, a lot of people, they are mindlessly, hey, what's going on? I'm making a video. What's going on, buddy? This is Primo. Yeah, he's just chilling. It's a big boy. No, but you have to be really, really mindful of like what you're exposing yourself to, what you're telling yourself, what you're allowing other people to like tell you. And a lot of stuff is in your subconscious, like from trauma and from like, hey chicken, I'm getting so distracted. There's like so much animals everywhere. Yeah, I'm getting distracted. I'm sorry. So if I'm not making sense, I'm so sorry. But yeah, so really important to watch your internal dialogue. And I think meditation helps you to kind of be able to just kind of like calmly sit and analyze what's going on in your mind. You know, what's playing over and over, what's looping, what's, you know, like what you're telling yourself, you know? And then when you meditate and you access that quiet space, that peaceful space within yourself, you allow like all these like stagnant, um, subconscious thoughts that you probably have had through trauma and stuff to kind of come to the surface, and then you can analyze that and release that or integrate it. But yeah, I think a lot of like negatively charged emotions and thoughts, that is basically, rooted from your inner dialogue, creates a lot of disease and cancer. Think about it. Because your internal world, um, attracts external things. You know what I mean? So if you're attracting like parasites or, um, unhealthy environments, then you got to think like what's going on inside of me, and why am I attracting these things? It's so that you can self-reflect and you can really, you know, investigate, understand, and, release unnecessities so you can make room and space for you to grow and rise and become a more holistic and healthy human being. Anyways, I have no idea if I made sense because I got super distracted by animals. That happens a lot. Like when I park in parking lots, I see cats or roosters, and I'm like, oh, and then I just totally like zone out to that and lose my train of thought. Anyway, if you followed me this far, I commend you. If you learned something new, great. If you didn't, that's great too. Um, just food for thought, you know? Just, yeah, it's really important to be mindful of your internal dialogue and what you're telling yourself, you know? And I think like once you transmute negatively charged thoughts, then you give yourself opportunities to attract, you know, beautiful and noble and holy things into your life. If that even makes sense. Anyhow, blessings to one and all. Have a fabulous evening. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this day. The sun is setting behind me, and I want to watch it. Another subject, sun gazing. If you haven't heard of it, you should definitely Google it. Sun gazing. All right, blessings to one and all. Amen.